Hi, it's Sarah from Sasseries, and it's been a long time. It feels like I haven't filmed a video in years. It's probably been about 5 or 6 months, so it's definitely been a long time. I'm really excited because I miss talking about books. I finished my first semester of college. As you can see, I'm not in my bedroom. I'm in my living room right now. My suitcase is blocking the door. I need to go and clean all my bookshelves. It's a hot mess in there. I haven't been in there in 5 months. So I need to, kind of spruce things up a bit before I go back into my normal abode. But I'm really excited because I missed talking to people about books. I haven't actually started getting into my core classes. Mainly what I've started taking in college is, your general classes, the classes that you have to get to graduate. So I've only taken a regular English class, which was like a 101 class, which I know how to write. That's easy. I mean, I'm an English education major. I think I know how to write, and my English teacher really liked me, so that's good. I took a math class, which I was struggling through, but I just found out today that I passed with a B, so that's awesome. I took a philosophy class, which was like a mandatory freshman class, but it was a really cool philosophy class, which I'll talk a little bit about later on when I get to the book that we had to read for that class. And I also took, what else did I take? I took 2 education classes, which, I mean, if you're not an education major, probably you don't care. But I got A's in both of those, which I don't know how I did that, because one of them, it's like a technology class, and my computer accidentally submitted all of my test answers when I hadn't answered any of the questions, so I only got like a 24 out of 100 on the thing, and I started freaking out. So yeah, that was a struggle, but I passed it with an A, and I passed my other education class with an A, so it's been a fun time. I'm going to stop rambling and telling you all about my life, because this isn't a vlog, this is a book blog, and I'm going to basically just go through a yearly wrap-up of all the books that I've read. I've actually talked about a few of these books. Only books that I've read until May, you've probably seen it on my channel, and I'll mention a few of them in book hauls and stuff, but I just want to share what I've read throughout the year with you guys, even if I've talked about them before, because your opinions change as the year goes on. And I think it's always good to see the growth and the difference in a reader. And I'm just really excited to be back, because I miss doing this, and just being back in front of the camera really makes me smile. So the first book that I'm going to talk about, it wasn't the first book that I read this year, but it's the first book worth mentioning, was Drums of Autumn by Diana Gabaldon. I miss holding these books, man. They're so big and chunky. This is the 4th book in the Outlander series, which follows Jamie and Claire Fraser. And if you haven't read any of the Outlander books, I highly recommend it. Some people love them, some people hate them. I personally love them. My mom loves them too. She's currently on Voyager. I have the Fiery Cross. I don't know if I'll get to it during the Christmas break, or if I'll get to it during the summer or something, because these books take a lot of commitment. This is 1,100 pages, I think. Yeah, 1,064 pages. Almost. Yeah, it's pretty big. And it takes a lot of energy to get through these books, but it's not a lot of energy, because when you're reading them, I notice when I read an Outlander book, I'll somehow read 150 pages in an hour, just because I get so into the story, and it's gripping, and it's moving, and it's emotional, and it's real, and I love these books so much because they just mean the world to me. I don't know, when I started reading them, I didn't know that they would end up being one of my favorite series ever. The writing is beautiful. It's very historical. It's Jamie and Claire's relationship is probably my favorite thing about the story, of course. Otherwise, there'd be no point in reading the books if you weren't invested in them. But they are probably what I consider to be a great representation of a couple. Yes, they have their faults. They're not always at their high points, but no couple is. And I love seeing the growth and their overcoming the low points that plague their relationship, because they are 2 very different people from 2 very different parts of time, and they came together, and it's so beautiful. And in this book, slight spoilers, it follows their daughter, and it was so beautiful to see her interaction with Jamie and Claire at the same time, and I love this book so much. It's not my favorite in the series. I think maybe it's my least favorite because there were some things in here that I didn't really like, but I also love it because it's Outlander, so I mean, anything that she writes I'll probably always love. So check out Outlander if you haven't. I obviously gave this one 5 stars. The next book I'm going to mention is King Lear by William Shakespeare. I read this way back in like January or February for my AP English class. Oh, back to high school. It's crazy. Already done with high school and on to college. King Lear follows King Lear, and it also follows, I think is it Britain? It's been a while since I've read this, but he has 3 daughters, and he makes them proclaim and profess their undying love and devotion to him. And his favorite daughter says, I think she says nothing, or she says something along the lines of, she basically implies, like, what do you want me to say? Obviously I love you, and the other girls are throwing flowery prose at him, and he's eating it up, and she doesn't say what he wants her to say because he expects more of his favorite, and he ends up banishing her, and then he goes crazy, and in good old Shakespearean fashion, tragedy strikes, and it gets a little crazy. I really enjoyed King Lear. This is probably his easiest play to read, in my opinion. I think it's even easier to understand than Romeo and Juliet. I really like King Lear. It's fun, and it's one of his plays that he doesn't really get a lot of merit for, but I really enjoyed it because King Lear is actually very subconsciously put into everything in our culture. I've read books without even realizing it. Like, anything that has 3 daughters in it probably has something to do with King Lear, because it's just one of those things. Like, We Were Liars, I think it was heavily influenced with the storytelling about King Lear. It just, it's pretty good. I loved it. I think I gave this one 4 out of 4.5 stars. It's not my favorite Shakespearean play. I think my favorite is Hamlet, but I do highly recommend King Lear because it's definitely fun. I think Shakespeare's fun. I enjoy reading him. I have to read Shakespeare out loud, so it's always kind of a little bit of a challenge, but when I do read him, I always get like a lot out of it, and I highly recommend it because it's Shakespeare. And then I read Transcendence by Shelley Savage. Okay, I have it like on my computer because this is a Kindle read. Transcendence follows a caveman, I know, right? A caveman, and his name is Ed, I think. Ed, yes. And Beth ends up being transported back in time, and she's from like our time, and it's beautiful. It's a lot like Outlander, only though with cave people, and it made me cry a lot, and it was so beautiful, and I really enjoyed it. I gave it 5 stars. I highly recommend Transcendence by Shelley Savage. I think it's Shay Savage, I mean. Yeah, her name's Shay Savage. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I really, really, really loved it. It made me cry, and it made me fangirl, and I love things that make me feel things like that because it reminded me of Jamie and Claire, but also it didn't because it had like a completely different feel to it, and I really, really love that. It's one of those books that I think is a very rare romance story because there isn't a lot of caveman stories out there, so I made it a lot of fun to read because it was so, I wouldn't say diverse, but kind of the 4-leaf clover of romances, you know, like it's that lucky book that you find that you're not expecting to find, and I'm so happy that I read it. It's not an expensive book. It is a good book. I highly recommend it. I think it's about $3.99, $4.99 on Kindle. I do recommend it, and I'm sure if you read it, you'll love it. I'm going to cut this one off and go on to making another video talking about some more books. So I'll see you in my next one, and let me know if you've read any of these down below. Bye.